It's time for another tier list, this time focused on the maps of Battlefield 2042. And yeah, this is gonna be rough. Spoiler warning, but I don't actually think any of the maps in 2042 are particularly well designed or interesting when compared to maps in other entries in the series.
Don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes.
But I do think some are definitely better than others. I'm going to be ranking these for overall flow, aesthetic, and theme for both Conquest and Breakthrough in all-out warfare, so we're going to be ignoring Portal and Hazard Zone for this, and it's just the base maps of 2042. This is also for PC, so only the large versions of the maps. Of course, this is all my opinion, which is always objectively correct, but if you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments below. You know the drill, S is best, A is great, B is good, C is average, and D is garbage. And if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps me grow the channel and continue building an awesome community. Alright, let's get started. Not going in any particular order, let's start with the sandy dunes of Hourglass. I actually love the theme of this map, with the somewhat futuristic city being engulfed by unending waves of sand, and the sandstorm rolling in creates a really striking visual that I wish was present on other maps. However, outside of a few key locations, I really don't like the flow here at all, because honestly, there doesn't even seem to be one. A common complaint across most of 2042's maps, if we're being honest. Large portions of it are just empty desert with little to no infantry cover, and other areas such as the stadium, which can actually be really fun to fight in, are not the focal points at all and are just kind of shoved to the side awkwardly. So many of these ideas sound amazing in theory. A half-buried stadium, skyscrapers connected by zip lines, a sandstorm, but they just fall completely flat in implementation. The layout of the capture points and areas have little to no relation to each other, and capturing sectors doesn't seem to position your team strategically in one way or the other. It's an S-tier theme that is bogged down by really poor execution, but slightly saved by a few key areas that can be fun to fight around in. Hourglass is our first C-tier map. It's just kind of average and barely squeaks out of the D tier. Next up we have Renewal, and visually this is one of my favorite maps in the entire game. The theme of this giant wall separating pristine agricultural areas from the harsh desert is just awesome and very striking, but again, we completely fall apart at implementation and execution. Unlike Hourglass, however, I genuinely don't enjoy fighting around any part of this map, and nothing about it flows well in my opinion, even on Breakthrough. There can be some intense fights around the gate and the wall, but other than that, it just feels like a series of disconnected skirmishes instead of a cohesive battle or front. And for some reason I've experienced some really bad vehicle spam on this map, with 4 or 5 bolts completely overrunning an objective, and as a primarily infantry player, it just doesn't create fun or memorable moments. The large flat portions of the map on both sides are boring and offer no cover, and I think overall the map would have benefited from being shrunken down. I dread playing on this map when it comes up on rotation, and it becomes our first D tier map based solely on its layout. It's just genuinely unenjoyable to play for me, which is a shame given its interesting visuals and theme. Let's take a chilly trip down to Antarctica and talk about Breakaway next. The largest of 2042's maps, Breakaway features some really interesting design and layout elements, but ultimately I think it suffers from just how freaking huge it is. I mean, this map is just straight up too big, which is not a complaint that I'm familiar with personally. I actually do love some aspects of this map. The verticality of the frozen cliffs, the silo areas, and the oil rig are all legitimately interesting areas to fight around on, but all the empty barren wasteland of space between them is just really uninspired. It's actually the only map where I feel punished for not playing as Sundance, especially as you assault the lower points from up above. And can we talk about point E1 in Conquest? I mean, have you ever seen a more useless point ever in a Battlefield game? Look at all that space between it and almost every other point. I don't understand what they were thinking here. Even in Breakthrough, it's just a spawn area. It's really disappointing and completely falls short of the reveal trailer, which seemed to imply a kind of Damavan Peak type of experience. I do enjoy some areas of this map, and aesthetically it's really cool, but for me, it falls in the same tier as Hourglass, just a very average C-tier map. Orbital is next, and initially I sort of bounced off of it in the beta. I thought it was too big and too empty to really be fun, but since then, I'm not sure if my standards have just lowered after playing the other maps, or if it's legitimately grown on me, but now I actually really enjoy playing this map. This one feels very much like a Battlefield map in its layout and design. The foliage in the more open areas does provide some pretty good infantry cover, and the rocket takeoff or explosion is another striking visual event. I just wish it had more impact on the actual map flow itself. Each series of points feels consistent and can be pretty fun to fight within, and the large tower adds a dynamic element to the app as well, and controlling it actually strategically helps your team, which is always a cool touch. My only complaint is the large open runway type of area between D and E points, just a really boring area to find yourself in, and I wouldn't have minded another point here. Maybe a big rocket crawler type of transport that moved or something would have been cool. This map is also much better than it was on release on Breakthrough, since the point on the big tower was moved from the roof of it, which was just really poor design. Overall, I enjoy Orbital enough that I'll put it in the B tier of maps. I think it's pretty good. Now let's ship over to Manifest. While this shipping yard map doesn't have the most interesting theme to me, it is definitely one of the stronger layouts within 2042, with possibly the best actual map design in the game. The maze-like shipping yards and ships can provide some interesting infantry engagements, and it has some verticality with the B sector being placed on a hill above the other points. It creates a sort of king of the hill type of battle for the hill sector, as controlling that does provide a significant spawn advantage for either team, and I've had a blast running, gunning, sniping, or using vehicles on this map. All playstyles feel valid and rewarded here, and it feels extremely Battlefield to me. Despite its size, I could definitely see Manifest fitting in very well in Battlefield 3 or 4. And movement between points and sectors doesn't feel as awkward or cumbersome as other maps. I enjoy both Conquest and Breakthrough equally here. Also, Manifest gets bonus points for being a night map in the rain, which creates some really cool visuals. I just wish they had been able to think of some clever Levolution type event here, such as containers getting knocked over or a crane falling or something, to dynamically change the layout of the map. More destruction overall would have been very welcome, but this is one of the best maps of 2042, with some weaknesses that keep it well out of S tier. Still, I think it's great enough to go in A. Next, we go into a South Korean metropolis with Kaleidoscope, and yeah, I hate this map. I'm so disappointed with how it plays because I was really intrigued by it when it was revealed, and the urban environment gave me Battlefield 4 vibes, but I just hate how clean and empty everything is though. I know these battles are the opening skirmishes to the 2042 conflict, but this city is just way too pristine. This is not the city of a world on the brink of collapse. But even beyond all of that, it's just not a fun map at all to play in my opinion. Skirmishes over the skyscrapers can be okay, but the entire middle of this map, I would say 80% of it, is almost unplayable as an infantry. It's just way too spread out with little to no cover and does not offer any interesting or exciting moments. The A sector tower feels completely separated from the map and just thrown in there with little thought to flow or layout. And on release, this was by far the worst Breakthrough experience they could have ever designed. How they thought 128 players fighting over a single rooftop with only a handful of elevators to get up would be interesting or fun, I will never know. Its only saving grace for me is the building in the middle, which can slightly switch up the gameplay, but honestly, this is just a straight up dumpster fire of a map and is easily D tier. I just don't enjoy it at all. Lastly, we have Discarded, where huge abandoned ships sit to be stripped for parts, picked clean of anything of value, and left to rot. Is this symbolic of the franchise itself? I'm not sure, but I do genuinely enjoy this map, and after playing lots of both Conquest and Breakthrough here, I think this actually might be my favorite one of the bunch. It still has its weak spots, but I really enjoy the experiences I've had here. The tense and chaotic battles on the D sector ship and the firefights I've had in the flooded village of B sector have been some of the most fun moments with the 2042 base maps. Controlling the ship is actually strategically important and even features some Levolution type events, with large sections of the ships being yanked down by cables. It's fairly underwhelming and inconsequential, but it's still a nice touch. Visually for me, this map is head and shoulders above the likes of Kaleidoscope or Orbital, with the muddy ground and large rusty pieces of ships creating a very interesting and unique design and aesthetic. Another one that just feels like a real Battlefield map. I think Discarded is another A. That's right, I don't think a single map, even the better ones in 2042, are S tier, and when compared to other maps in the franchise, I probably wouldn't even put any above B. But there you have it, every base map of 2042 ranked and discussed. Do you agree or disagree? Definitely let me know in the comments below, and that's it for me today. Thanks for watching, until next time.